The morning light sliced through the air at Forward Operating Base Epsilon, the rays of sunlight sharp as a blade, cutting through the cool mountain air. Dust danced in the sunbeams, hanging in the crisp air that surrounded the firing range. The remote location, so far removed from civilian life, felt like a world of its own, a world where the best soldiers trained, where precision and discipline were the cornerstones of everything. Sergeant Thaddius Blackwood stood like a rock, firmly planted on the firing line. His weathered face, hardened by years of service, betrayed no emotion as he barked orders at the soldiers under his command. His eyes, sharp as a hawk's, scanned each trainee, noticing every mistake, every misstep, every missed shot. With 23 years of experience, he had earned his reputation as one of the toughest, most demanding instructors in the military. "Adjust for windage, Hayward," Blackwood shouted, his voice carrying over the range like a thunderclap. "You're thinking like this is a straight shot. This isn't your grandfather's backyard plinking." The young specialist's last few rounds had missed by increasingly wide margins, and Blackwood was not going to let it slide. The range was known as the Widow's Walk, a target positioned 1,760 yards away across a deep ravine. The wind was unpredictable here, swirling in erratic patterns that created a harmonic disruption zone, meaning no one had ever hit it. This was a place where only the best snipers from military forces across the world tested their mettle. The target had become infamous, not for being difficult, but for being impossible. "This is the toughest sniper range in the world," Blackwood had said more than once. "If you want to make it, you need to master your mind, your body, and your weapon. Fail to do that, and you'll be humbled." Even the elite shooters who came to this facility to test their skills struggled to hit the mark. Medal of Honor recipients, Olympic marksmen. They all tried, and they all failed. The Widow's Walk was designed not to be beaten, but to teach a valuable lesson in humility. As Blackwood adjusted his posture and prepared to give more advice, he noticed something out of the corner of his eye. A figure standing at the edge of the range, silently observing. A woman. Her presence was unusual, almost out of place. The soldiers around her barely acknowledged her, too absorbed in their training to notice. Blackwood's eyes narrowed. Who was this person? She had the aura of someone who didn't belong to this world, a world of soldiers, of precision, and of men and women trained for one purpose: combat. She was an anomaly. Ren Callaway was not dressed like the others. No camouflage, no tactical gear, just simple civilian clothing. A faded blue button-down shirt, khaki pants, and hiking boots that had seen their share of miles. Her silver-streaked hair was tied back in a ponytail, and her eyes, when they moved across the range, were filled with quiet intensity. There was nothing in her posture that screamed military, but everything in her presence suggested otherwise. Blackwood didn't know what to make of her. It wasn't uncommon for civilians to visit the base for various reasons, usually contractors, journalists, or efficiency consultants. But this woman was different. He couldn't place it. She wasn't like the others. The way she moved, the way she observed, it wasn't the way a civilian moved. It was the way a soldier moved. She made no effort to speak with anyone. She simply stood at the periphery, watching intently as the trainees practiced. Occasionally, she would jot something down in a small, leather-bound notebook. Her silence was unsettling, almost unnerving. The young soldiers, curious, began whispering theories about her. "Maybe she's some kind of consultant," one said. "Nah," another responded. "She's probably a journalist with connections, trying to get a story." The morning wore on, but Blackwood's frustration grew. This woman was a distraction, no matter how quiet she was. By the time the formal training ended, he was already thinking about the whiskey waiting for him back in his quarters when she approached him. "Sergeant Blackwood," she said, her voice calm and clear, "I would like to attempt the long shot." The range fell silent. Laughter erupted soon after, but not from Ren. It came from Blackwood and the trainees, who had gathered to watch the spectacle. "You want to try the Widow's Walk?" Blackwood said, unable to keep the disbelief from his voice. "Ma'am, with all due respect, that target has never been hit. We've had Medal of Honor recipients and Olympic marksmen come here, and they've all failed. What makes you think you can do it?" Ren didn't react to the laughter. She simply waited, her expression unchanged. Blackwood sighed. He had no idea what was going on with her, but he figured there was no harm in letting her try. It would be amusing to see the look on her face, when she failed, just like everyone else. He gestured toward the sniper rifle. "All right then," he said with mock seriousness, "but just so you know, only ghosts and gods make that shot." With exaggerated patience, he began to explain how to use the rifle. His instructions were slow, drawn out, and laced with a thinly veiled mockery. The rifle was the most advanced weapon in the military's arsenal, but Blackwood didn't believe for a second that this woman knew how to use it. Ren's response was nothing but calm. Her hands didn't shake when she took the rifle. There was no hesitation. She didn't even need to look at the scope when she adjusted it, her fingers finding the dials with practiced ease. "You sure you want to do this, ma'am?" Lieutenant Frost asked, stepping forward. "Current wind conditions are tricky 12 to 15 knots, shifting northeast." "Don't waste your time, Lieutenant," Blackwood interjected before Frost could say more. "The lady is just having her military tourism moment." But something caught Blackwood's eye as Ren readied herself to fire. She was breathing in perfect rhythm, a technique known only to the most skilled snipers. It was something Blackwood had seen only in the best of the best, a technique so advanced that it was classified beyond regular training manuals. The range had gone eerily quiet as Ren prepared. Her every movement was deliberate, purposeful. She didn't rush, didn't showboat. She adjusted for factors Blackwood didn't even know could be adjusted for. Her focus, her demeanor, everything had changed. Gone was the pleasant civilian, replaced by a soldier whose mind was sharp, calculating, and battle-tested. For the first time, Blackwood felt something strange in the pit of his stomach. A chill. The rifle felt like an extension of her body. She drew in a slow breath, held it, and squeezed the trigger with perfect precision. The crack of the rifle was followed by a deafening silence. For what felt like an eternity, nothing happened. Then, boom! The target didn't just register a hit, it erupted. The reinforced bunker exploded with a force far beyond anything a target should have produced. The shockwave hit the soldiers, knocking them to the ground. Blackwood was sent sprawling, dust filling the air. Men instinctively dropped to the dirt, their training kicking in as they protected themselves from the blast. When the dust finally cleared, Blackwood found himself staring at Ren Callaway. She was calmly returning the rifle to its stand, as though nothing extraordinary had just occurred. Blackwood opened his mouth to speak, but found no words. He could only stare at the crater where the target had once stood. What was that?" he managed, still dazed. "That target wasn't supposed to explode like that. What did you do?" Before Ren could respond, there was a sudden clatter from behind. A maintenance worker, an elderly man named Samuels, dropped his tools and approached her. His face was full of shock, his steps hesitant. "Phantom6, Samuels whispered reverently. His voice trembled as he looked at Ren, and Blackwood could hear the weight of history in his words. Blackwood turned to him, confused. "What did you call her?" Samuels didn't respond immediately. Instead, Lieutenant Frost, who had been quietly accessing classified files, looked up from his tablet. His eyes widened as he read the documents on the screen. He looked between Samuels and Ren, his disbelief growing. "Sir," Frost said, his voice quieter now, filled with awe. "This is Colonel Ren Callaway. She's Phantom6. She's the one who made the impossible shot in the 1993 Mogadishu rescue." Blackwood froze. His mind raced back to his early training. Every sniper knew about the Mogadishu shot. It was the stuff of legends, a shot so precise that no one believed it could be done. It had been classified for years, and no one had ever taken credit for it. But now, standing in front of him, was the person who had made that shot, the impossible shot. "Who are you?" Blackwood whispered. Ren smiled faintly, but there was no ego, no arrogance in her expression. She was simply herself. "I'm someone who's been doing this long before you ever picked up a rifle," she said quietly. As the rest of the soldiers recovered from the shock, Blackwood was left standing in awe, trying to process the impossible events he had just witnessed. Later, more information came to light. Ren Callaway was no ordinary soldier. She was a living legend, a founder of the Advanced Tactical Precision Unit. Her name was whispered in the most secretive military circles. She had designed the sniper training protocols that the soldiers at Epsilon used. She had done things that no one else could, and she had done them in silence, with no desire for recognition. But now, Blackwood understood. The reason she had come to Epsilon wasn't to show off. She had come to investigate a breach in security, and her impossible shot had been the key to uncovering it. Ren Callaway had been a ghost, operating in the shadows, unseen by the world. But now, for the first time, her legacy was clear to everyone. As the dust settled and the base returned to normal, Blackwood stood at attention, paying his respects to the woman who had changed everything.